Hey everybody, my name is Joe and I'm making this little quick video to warn Airbnb users why not to use them, and anyone else that's considering using Airbnb why you should not use them either, because you never know what you're going to get when you use Airbnb. And I'm the type of person that believes, like, I can handle myself and nothing bad will ever happen to you. And I'm making this little video for all the people out there that are just like me, basically. Like, this can happen to anyone. And basically, with Airbnb, you are taking a gamble, you're taking a risk, and you're never gonna know what's gonna happen to you. You never know who you're gonna stay with, and it's gonna turn into a nightmare if you're one of the unlucky ones. And I have talked to Airbnb, and they said this is a rare case, which means this does happen. So even if it's a 1% chance that this is gonna happen to you, well, there's a 1% chance this could happen to you, and it's not gonna be good for you. So, like I said, I'm the type of person that can take care of themselves. Nothing, I never really believe anything bad can happen to you. But for this goes, so my story can relate to and goes to anyone and everyone out there listening. So I was looking for a place to stay, basically for a vacation, and I wanted to go somewhere for a full month. And I'd spent like 5 months in Minnesota, so I wanted to go somewhere where it's really warm and tropical. And Puerto Rico seemed like a really nice place because, well, it's not, a place that I would need to use a passport for or use currency exchange, because it's still part of the United States and they still use like American dollars and stuff like that. So I thought Puerto Rico would be a great place. It's an island and I can go on a nice beach and everything like that. So I found this lady named Nadia, and she had a place for rent that I could rent for a full month. And I had chosen her because I had actually spoken to like maybe 5 or 6 different people in Puerto Rico, and she was the very fastest one to respond. She was really quick to message back when I had a question, and she seemed really reliable. And a couple weeks before the whole trip was to happen, which I started my travel to Puerto Rico was June 1st, 2019, which was just last week. And but prior to my departure to get there, we had arranged for a time for her to come pick me up. And she actually said that she was glad to pick me up. All she asked for was $15 to pick me up from the airport, and I thought it was more than fine. And so I had messaged her the night before I left to go to Puerto Rico, and she did not write back. And so this is like after I'd already paid for my Airbnb. This is already after I've already paid for my plane ticket. And so she did not respond back, which is uncharacteristic of her. And I decided to go on the flight anyways, because everything was already paid for, and I had no place to go because my lease was up. And so I was actually leaving the day my lease was up at my apartment, so there's no way I can go back. So I had nowhere to go. So I got on the flight anyways, and the flight was like 7 hours long or whatever, and I used Spirit, and it's not a good airline anyways, so that's neither here nor there. So, but I arrived to the airport at 1:30 in the afternoon, and she does not show up, she does not text, she does not message, and I sat there at the airport for 2 hours, like, not knowing what to do, because I'm basically in another country. So, like, yeah, I know, even though Puerto Rico is part of the United States, but like when you're around everyone who just speaks Spanish, and you're basically on an island, you might as well be in another country. So I sat there for 2 hours not hearing from her. I actually called Airbnb just to see what my possibilities were of like maybe changing or whatever. But after, like, while I was on the phone, she actually called me, so I had to drop my call with Airbnb and get to the call with her. And she messaged me, or she called me, and she was like, "Hey, I'm sorry. This is Nadia. I'll be there in half an hour or whatever." And she said like her boyfriend's gonna pick me up. So this was like number one, and this is one thing I should not have done, was get in a car with somebody who was not the person who I had already previously talked to. So so that's number one. So her boyfriend comes and picks me up 2 hours late after I'd gotten her to the airport, and after hearing nothing from her for the first 2 hours. And her excuse was like she was getting my room ready. So I would much rather have been contacted or in some way to let me know what was going on, if that was really what was going on. So first I got into this car with somebody who I didn't know, and it was not the person who I messaged, but This guy dropped me off at her place, and the very first thing I noticed when I walked into her house was like there were dogs chained up to the living room, so by their leash. So like there were 2 dogs in the living room, chained up to the wall, and the hostess Nadia was like, she goes, "Oh, this is so and so, and this is so and so," and then she went on for some reason to tell me like how much she doesn't even like the dogs, which is kind of a little weird. And she told me like, "Oh, this is a rescue dog. I don't even like it, and the only reason I keep it because the other dog likes it, but I don't like the dogs." And it was kind of weird to have that be one of the very first things that your hostess tells you is like how much she doesn't like her dogs. And so soon to find out though, like these dogs are not taken care of, and they're chained up to the wall 24 hours a day. And the only times they even are taken out is when a next door neighbor, not the hostess, a next door neighbor comes and takes them out to go to the bathroom or whatever else for like 10 minutes out of the day. The other 23 hours and 50 minutes out of the day, they're chained up to the walls. So they're basically chained to the walls all day long. And so I kind of found that a little disturbing, as anyone else would, mention, but they didn't seem like they were starved or anything. So I kind of know like at least they're being fed, and they did have some water. So I was like, okay, at least they're not malnourished. So maybe they're okay. So whatever. I arrived to the place around 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and I was actually extremely tired as my flight getting to Puerto Rico was at 4 in the morning. So I basically went to bed really early that day, and I didn't really do too much that first day there. So the very first day, my very first impression was like, 1, I was picked up 2 hours late from the airport from my hostess, got into a car with someone that was not my hostess, and 3, there was dogs chained up the living room of the place I was going to stay at for a whole month, and that was the plan. So then the very next day, I wake up pretty early in the morning, because I wake up at 7 in the morning and I go jogging and stuff like that. I wake up in the morning and I walk out into the living room in the common area, in the little dining area, I guess, if you want to call it living room too. Walk out there just to check out the view and everything, and I step in dog pee. And so I did not expect this, did not expect to have like dogs like going to the bathroom in the living room. And so like it's pretty gross. And I think anyone who has ever experienced that would say the same thing. And so I don't think anyone would ever want to walk or live in a place that has dog pee. And so that was like another set off. And like, let me remind you, this is like, I've not even been in this place for more than 24 hours. Like, this is morning time of day 2. So I take my socks off immediately, and then I sit down at the kitchen counter and get my computer out. And then the hostess comes out and she goes, "Why are your socks off?" And then I basically just said, I was like, "You know what? I stepped in your dog's pee and I took my socks off." And the hostess picked up my socks. She threw them underneath where I was sitting. And then she did not say sorry. She did not acknowledge really anything about the problem. And then like after a few minutes, like she basically like went out and got a mop or whatever and cleaned it up. But she did not say sorry. She didn't like really acknowledge or have any kind of empathy for like, I was like, I just stepped in your dog's pee. Like seriously, and I'm your guest. And this is my first day, technically my first day here. And so I do a lot of computer work. So I actually spent a lot of my time in my bedroom. So after another rude encounter with her, I just took my stuff and went back to my room. And so this lady, like I haven't talked much about her, but like her personality is really harsh. She's not hospitable at all. Like she's kind of like, in her Airbnb description, she says, "I'm not mean. I just like stuff clean." Like she, like for some reason, like if you have to mention that you're not mean in your Airbnb description, then I mean, I kind of like maybe took that as like, hey, maybe this person really is clean or whatever. But her personality is actually really mean. Like she's not mean. I mean, she's not gonna, she's really got this anger that she pins up. Like, I don't know, I don't want to get into her personality too much, but like she's not a nice person. And the way she talks to you is like not hospitable. And it's like, I don't know, it's not something that, not a person you find pleasant. But anyways, enough about that part. But she's just not a nice person to even like begin with. But anyways, so that was technically day number 2, stepping in dog pee. And then also, I went to go out to get some groceries and stuff like that. And the part of town that I'm staying in her place, was horrible. It was a horrible part of town. Like when I talked to her first, like she said, like, oh yeah, there's bars, there's restaurants, you know, there's nightclubs or whatever. And that's kind of like part of my deal. It's like, you know, I wanted to go to the beach, you know, go to a bar, go to a restaurant, and have a nice time, you know. But this place where she lives is in Carolina, and it's rundown. It's a rundown part of town. Like there was a rundown grocery store, there was a rundown movie theater, there's a Chili's where I went to, where I ended up going. There was like nothing, there was nothing there to go to. Like I walked every day to the grocery store for, you know, get some lunch meat or whatever. But it was like a really bad part of town. It was horrible. And luckily, I actually met a girl through the internet who I ended up going on a date with, who was just like telling me like how bad this part of town was. She told me, you should not be here. Like, especially being an American, like a guy from America, a white guy, you should not be in this part of town. And so, of course, that was alarming as well. But I was like, you know, I'm spending most of my time in my room. But okay, but anyways, the part of town's bad. Her personality is horrible. Stepping in dog pee. Dogs chained up to the living room. Man, and so this is like less than 24 hours of being in this place. The next day is day 3. So I arrive, step in dog pee, day 2, day 3. Day 3, the water gets turned off. And so, like usual, I wake up at 7 a.m., I go jogging, and then I go take my shower, and I go back to my room at 9 a.m., and I go back on my computer, do my computer work. I get out of my room at 1 in the afternoon, which, you know, I eat lunch between noon and 1. I go to make myself a sandwich, and then I come out of my room, and the hostess says, like, hey, what are you up to? I was like, hey, I'm going to make myself a sandwich or whatever. And she goes, I don't want you to eat anything. I was like, okay, why? She goes, the water's turned off. I was like, well, what does that matter? Because I'm just going to make me a sandwich. And she goes, well, you can't wash your hands, though. And then I said, well, I just taken a shower just an hour ago, and I've been in my room. I'm not dirty. I'm clean enough to eat something. And then she goes, well, you're not going to be able to wash your plate, so I don't want you to eat anything. And I said, I'm actually really starving right now, and I'm going to make myself a sandwich, and I will wash my plate when the water turns back on. When do you think the water will turn back on? And she didn't know. So a day without water in her place. So I ended up making myself a sandwich and using a plate, which makes no mess whatsoever, but she didn't want me to eat anything. But I did it anyways, and I just said, hey, you know what? I'm actually really starving right now. I haven't eaten yet today. I'm going to make myself a sandwich, and I'll wash my plate later when the water turns back on. This made her mad. So I make myself a sandwich. I go back to my room, and at this point, I'm starting to contemplate maybe not staying here was a good idea. And so later on that evening, probably around 5 or 6, whatever, I actually called Airbnb, and I told them about my situation. And I was like, hey guys, you know, like, here's my situation. I picked up 2 hours late, no call, no message, no nothing. I was basically stranded here for a while, not knowing what to do. I get picked up by someone who's not the hostess. I walk into this room where there's dogs chained up to the house, to the wall, in the living room. Dogs are peeing all over. The guest is rude. And I said to the Airbnb person, the customer service person, I was like, what are my chances of being refunded? Like, and it was like, I don't want to leave. I still want to stay here for a month, but I just want to find another place. Like, I don't mind paying for what I stayed for, but I just want to go somewhere else. And so the Airbnb customer service said, well, the refund is really up to your hostess. I was like, this lady is up to my refund? There's no way I'm going to get a refund. This lady's mean. And not only that, this lady, Nadia, she has no job. She's a masseuse. She says she's a masseuse. But I ended up staying there for, you know, this is the 3rd day when I'm talking to the customer service person. But like in the 4 days I was there total, she did not have one job. She did not one client. She has no job. She says she's a masseuse, but she doesn't have any other income other than Airbnb. She relies on Airbnb. So I kind of knew that. I was like, this lady's not going to give me a refund. There's just no way. And so the customer service person actually kind of like persuaded me, like, just stay there for one more day. Maybe it'll get better. Maybe it'll get better, you know? So I stayed for one more day. I was like, okay, maybe it will get better. Maybe it's just a bad, rough start. You never know. So I gave it one more day. The very next day, I wake up at 7 a.m. I go jogging. I take my shower as usual, and I go back to my bedroom as usual to go back to my computer work. I wake up, I go back into the kitchen at 1 in the afternoon to go make myself lunch as usual. And as I'm making my sandwich, Nadia comes back out and she goes, Joe, there's a problem. I was like, okay. And this vibe that she was giving me actually made me really sick to my stomach. It was like one of the sickest vibes I ever had in my life. And so she goes, Joe, there's a problem. I was like, okay, what is it? And she goes, there's blood in the shower. I was like, oh, okay. And she goes, and everyone here knows it's you. And I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, there's a blood stain in the shower. You took a shower today, and there's blood in the shower, and everyone knows that it was your blood. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, are you really telling me, like, I'm bleeding? Like, do you really want to look at my arms? Do you want to look at do I have to take my shirt off? Like, do you want to look at my body and, like, see if there's any way there could be blood coming out of me? Like, I don't have any cuts. I don't have any nosebleeds. Like, where would there be blood coming out of me? Like, I would love for you to just tell me right now, just to end this conversation. Just show me. She goes, I don't want to see, I don't look at you. Like you don't need to take your shirt off or nothing. Like, we know it's you. And she continued to accuse me of, like, having blood in the shower. This is so disgusting. So, but anyways, I was like, and like, again, I assured her, I was like, this is not my blood. There's no blood in the shower. Like, I didn't even see the blood. I was like, what are you talking about? There's absolutely no way I'm bleeding in any shape or form. She goes, well, everyone here knows it's you, and quite frankly, I'm sick of it. And she said, like, I even threw up. I threw up looking at it, and it has a horrible smell. And I was like, maybe it's shampoo. Like, my shampoo is brown. Maybe it's brown shampoo. Like, maybe it's like, there's no way it's blood. She goes, well, none of us here believe you. And I said, you know what? Quite frankly, I'm offended right now. And I think you're being really offensive and rude. And so in that moment, I just went back to my room. And so that's when I was, like, definitely sure I was going to leave. And so after some contemplation, about an hour, I texted Nadia and I said, Nadia, I'm going to end my visit with you early, and these are the reasons. 2 hours late, dog pee, water getting turned off. Like, you're accusing me of blood. Like, I've been here for 4 days. You know, this is a horrible visit. Like, this is what I got. So anyways, I texted Nadia, and I was like, hey, I don't mind paying for the nights I was here, but we need to work out a refund. Like, I've been here for 3 nights, 4 nights, whatever. I don't mind paying for it, whatever it is. I don't care. Like, but I'm not staying here. She responds back, hey, I'm sorry that you feel uncomfortable. I do not want you to feel uncomfortable in my house. And, like, I will work something out with you. And it was actually, seemed like a really, like, you know, nice, you know, let's work this out. I was like, okay, cool. So that's the way it came across. She knocks on my door, and then we talk in person. And I was like, hey, you know, this just isn't really working out. I'm sorry. And she goes, yeah, I'm sorry too. It's not working out. And then it seemed to be mutual. And she goes, don't worry about it. I'll call Airbnb. We'll get you a refund. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. And she was really nice about it. Like, this is the first time she's actually been really nice the entire time. I was like, okay, cool. Very cool. And so, and this is like around 6 o'clock in the evening. And so I was like, okay, cool. You know, just let me know what you come up with or whatever. And I started packing. And like 2 hours goes by, and she does not call Airbnb. And she doesn't call them. And like, and during this time also, I'm also looking at other places to go to, and I'm arranging other places that are near San Juan and stuff like that. And so, and I picked out a place. I even messaged some places that I was going to go into, and I found. So, but I needed to know what my deal was with the refund. I didn't know if I was going to get cash back or credit back, because like I'm not going to spend money on a new place if I'm going to get credits, because I'd rather just spend the credits on a new place. So 2 hours goes by. She does not call Airbnb. And so I called them myself. And I was like, okay, I called Airbnb. And I talked to a lady this time, a customer service lady. And she actually told me that I was eligible for $475 as a refund, which is the complete opposite of what I was told the night before by some guy that told me that I was not eligible for a refund. And if I was, it was up to my hostess. So now day 2 comes by when I'm talking to this new person. And she told me I was eligible, again, for $475. And I thought that was awesome. Okay, very cool. And I told her, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go somewhere else. It's cool, like I'm still staying here. I'm gonna go somewhere else, another room. So you still got my business, Airbnb, but I need to go somewhere else. And so, and she said, yeah, you're eligible for $475, but we need to confirm it with your hostess if that's okay. So then I get off the phone with Airbnb, and as soon as I get off the phone with Airbnb, Nadia, doesn't even knock. She barges into my room. She goes, why were you talking to Airbnb? Like stressed out, like in that stress of a tone. Like, why did you talk to them? And I was like, because I gave you 2 hours to call Airbnb and you didn't do it. Like, I need to find out what I'm going to do because I'm not staying here tonight. Like, or whatever. Maybe I'll leave tomorrow, whatever. But it's just like, I need to find a place to stay. Like, you're not taking care of this deal. And she goes, I told you I was going to call them. I was like, but I need to know now because like I need to figure out my situation. And so, and I was like, hey, I just talked to Airbnb. I'll pay for the nights I stayed here already. But they said I'm eligible for $475. And this made her mad. Again, this girl has no job. So to have $475 taken out away from her or whatever her deal is with Airbnb, that's going to make her mad. And so she goes, well, I'm not going to give you a $475 refund. I'm going to charge you for 2 weeks. I've been here for 3 nights. I was like, if you're going to charge me for 2 weeks, then I'm going to stay here for 2 weeks. That made her more mad. And she goes, no, you're not staying here for 2 weeks. I'm charging you for 2 weeks, but you're leaving now. And I said, well, if I'm leaving now, I'm going to give you a bad review. And you will never get another customer through Airbnb again, because when people see my review about you being 2 hours late, dog pee, dogs chained to the fence, everything else, no one's ever going to come here again. And here's another thing. Airbnb, their review system, I went to go write my review just the other day. I'm still getting to other things, but I went to go do my review the other day, last night, and my review will not get posted until the hostess approves it. So, of course, she only has great reviews. So if I give her a 1 review, like a 1-star review, it's not going to show on Airbnb. So, like, there's probably plenty of bad reviews about this person, but only the good ones show. Anyhow, back to my story. So she goes, I'm not going to give you a refund. You're going to pay for 2 weeks. And I said, I'll stay here for 2 weeks then, if that's what I'm paying for. She goes, well, you're leaving now. And I said, if I'm leaving now, I'm going to give you a bad review, and you'll never get another customer again. Because once they see my review, no one's going to stay here again. And you're going to lose all your money. You're going to lose all your business. You're going to lose all your customers. This made her furious, absolutely furious. She goes, I'm calling the cops. And so my bags were already packed. I called the girl who I went on a date with the day before. And I was like, hey, this is like, by this time it's like 11 o'clock at night. And I was like, hey, I need you to come get me. I wake her up in the middle of the night. I was like, hey, I need you to come get me. This is Joe. Come get me. I told you about this lady. She's crazy. Like, she's calling the cops to me. And this lady I'm talking to, this girl who I met, she doesn't really speak English that much. So she said, call me back. And she said, text me. I can't understand. Just text me. So I texted her back. Please pick me up. Like, this lady is crazy. She's calling the cops. I need to go. So this lady, like, she's on her way to come get me, but I have the cops coming to get me too. So, like, I hear my hostess on the phone speaking in Spanish, talking to the cops. I have no idea what she's saying. Like, she could be telling them anything for all I know. And luckily there was one other person another Airbnb person who had just arrived that day to actually witness everything. So there is a witness to everything, just because like, by no means will I ever be accused of touching a girl or hitting a girl or whatever. I was like, I'm removing myself from the situation. So I grabbed my suitcase, I grabbed my guitar, I grabbed my book bag with my computer, and I just left. And as I was walking through the living room, she yells at me and she goes, "You cannot leave. I already called the security guards at the front gate. They're not gonna let you out." So the place I'm staying at actually has a gated community. There's security guards who, you know, let cars in and out, and it's fenced in. The entire complex is fenced in, and her townhouse is built on a hill. So, I mean, just to help illustrate the next part of the story, because the story continues. So I grabbed my suitcase anyways, and like the other Airbnb person's there too in the room, like, so they know like I just left. I was like, she said, "You cannot leave. I called the security guards and the cops are coming to get you." And I was like, "I'm leaving anyways. There's no way I'm staying in this room. There's no way you're gonna accuse me of like, you know, verbal abuse or violence or anything. I'm out of here. Like, I'm removing myself from this situation immediately. Absolutely." And so I leave her complex, and she lives on the 5th floor of this townhouse. And I'm dragging my suitcase behind me, which weighs 80 pounds, because I'm bringing everything I belong, my books, my clothes, exercise equipment, all kinds of stuff is in my suitcase. Not to mention I have my backpack, which computer and everything else. And I'm going down her stairs. And because I'm leaving her house, like basically like in a hurry, like I fall down the stairs because my suitcase trips me. I fall down these stairs, which are made out of cement. I fall down the stairs, I gather my stuff, like, and my legs right now are already banged up. Like, holy cow, like this is not good. So I grab my stuff, gather my stuff, and I start to leave her townhouse. And because I know the cops are on their way, I avoid the streets, and I also avoid the sidewalks, because I don't want a cop to drive past me and just arrest me. Because there's no way a white guy in Puerto Rico who speaks only English is going to get like any kind of like you know, good reputation with a Puerto Rican cop. There's no way it's gonna happen. That would be a rare case if it did. But I'm not gonna take that risk. But because I had spent every morning jogging throughout the neighborhood, I kind of knew the area a little bit. And so instead of going down the streets and going down the sidewalk, I knew there was a little grassy area that I could just walk through to where maybe I can go toward a fence or something. And I knew the security guards were not going to let me out. So I had in mind that I was going to have to jump a fence and just make myself to Chili's. Like, because I knew Chili's, because Chili's is a restaurant, right? It's a restaurant that everyone knows. And I was like, as long as I can get to like a public area, as long as I'm in a lit-in space where I at least have an alibi, where people know where I am, where I can talk to a bartender or whatever else, and just like let people know, like, at least I have an alibi. That's all I was going for. I just need a place to be in public for. And so, but I'm leaving like after 11. So this restaurant is probably closing by now, but I just needed to get somewhere where I could just be in public and just be seen. And so my whole idea was just to jump a fence, right? I'll get there somehow. So I'm leaving her complex, and I'm gonna walk through this grassy area. I'm gonna avoid the streets. I'm gonna walk through this grassy area, but this grassy area, like I said, her townhouse is built on a hill, like a huge hill. And like there was a slope that I go down. The slope is probably about a 22-foot drop at about maybe a 45-degree angle. I'm just guessing. But so I walked through like maybe 75 feet of grass. That's flat land. But then the hill comes where I actually had to go down the hill. And so as I start going down the hill, my suitcase once again trips me, and I fall down this hill. And this hill is full of rocks. It's full of tree roots. There's trees everywhere. So like there's tree roots sticking out of the hill. And I'm tumbling down. This is like something you see out of a movie. Like I'm literally tumbling down this hill, getting banged up everywhere. Like, I mean, like I have like scrapes and bruises all over my knees, which I have pictures of. And so I'm tumbling down this hill, and I can feel my legs just banging on every rock that it hits. And like, I'm so lucky my legs did not break. Like it was just crazy, like just the stumble. I've never fallen down so hard before. And so I fall down this whole hill, and I gather myself up. Luckily, I didn't break any bones. And I check myself out. I'm not bleeding. I'm banged up for sure. But like, you know, just like, I'm like, these are just after a couple of days. Like this is like a couple of days ago. I'm finally back home safe with my parents. But, so like I gather myself up. I grab my suitcase again, my guitar again, and my backpack. Everything is so heavy. My suitcase is 80 pounds. My book bag is another 20, 30 pounds, plus my guitar. I'm dragging 100 pounds of stuff with me. And so I start walking around the fence, trying to find a fence to jump. And then I realize the entire fence is full of barbed wire. And then not only that, there's actually, no matter where I jump, whatever fence I jump, there's a second fence I had to jump over too. So this whole community is double gated. Like there's 2 fences to go through. And the second fence, so the first fence has the normal barbed wire that goes, you know, there's like the 3 barbed wires that go across. But then the second barbed wire was the barbed wire that's like bigger loops like this, which looks like a prison. And then I was like, I can maybe deal with the first barbed wire, but I cannot deal with the second one. Like I don't know how I'm gonna go over that one. So I start dragging my equipment around the entire complex, just looking for a fence that is not barbed wired. And then there was one section of fence that I remember from jogging that wasn't barbed wired, but if I jumped that fence, it would take me to basically like this jungle area where it's nothing but trees and plants, and there's no pathway at all to get through. And like that would be harder than jumping over the second barbed wire fence, I was thinking. So there's no way I'm gonna jump into the jungle. And just like, there's just no way. Like, who knows what kind of animals are in there or whatever, but just the fact there's no way I could drag my suitcase through that area, it's just not possible. So I drag my equipment, my suitcase, and everything else around the complex still. And I eventually just dropped my equipment off at the basketball court. So this complex has an outside basketball court, and I just leave my stuff there. So that way it's easier for me to find a better place to jump. So I continue to walk through the complex. I walk past the security guards, like I was like maybe 200, 300 feet away from them, so they didn't really see me. So I eventually walk past a dumpster. I walk past the pool, and I walk down this fenced-in area, which is again on another hill, on another slope. I mean, it's like 45-degree angle. So I'm walking along the fence. My legs are bruised. My legs are scraped up. And the fence is built on the slope too. So like, as I'm walking through the slope, there's rocks, there's more tree roots. Like, it's just, like, it's an obstacle course, you know? And I'm using the fence to just keep myself up. Like, I'm just trying to, like, I'm seriously like a refugee at this point. Like, I'm seriously using the fence to hold myself up. My legs are banged up, my arms are banged up. And I have to pull myself a good 150 feet through this little valley, like this slope. And like between the fence and the slope, like, and my legs and my feet are just tangled up in everything it can get caught up on. I'm dragging myself along this fence, and I eventually come across the fence where it ends, to where the fence is actually about a foot shorter than the rest of the fence. And not only that, the barbed wire was actually pushed down. So like from someone previously jumping the fence, I'm guessing. So the rest of the barbed wire fence is actually all intact, but this one part of the fence was actually pushed down. So I find this area to that I can actually jump. And then I look again to where I'm going to jump into. It's another little field where I'm going to have to jump another fence. But this fence was actually doable, because this next fence was not full of barbed wire, but this next fence was actually poles. But at the top of the poles, there were spikes. So I was like, I can do this. Like, I can do that one. That's easier than my other 2 options of the jungle and the other prison cell barbed wire. So I walk across the entire complex again, back to the basketball court. Still bruised and scraped up. I'm sweaty, I'm exhausted already at this point. And so I grab my suitcase, grab my guitar, grab my computer and everything else, and I drag another 100 pounds of equipment through the complex. And so that's another football field that I have to like basically drag myself through. I drag myself through the parking lot, through the basketball court, through the roads, past the security guards, and then I get to the dumpster, and then I was like, I have to make several trips. I cannot take everything with me. I drop off my suitcase at the dumpster. I hide my stuff behind the suitcase, and I bring my guitar and just my backpack with me. Again, through this another 150 feet of like this hill that I have to climb through. And I'm climbing, I'm slipping on rocks. I'm falling over like every 3 steps. I'm falling over. I'm using the chain link fence just to keep myself up. And I finally pull myself through to the very end of the fence to the part that I can jump. I throw my guitar over the fence, which is an acoustic, by the way, and it's not in a hard shell case, it's in a soft shell case. I throw my guitar over the fence. I throw my backpack, which has my computer in it, over the fence. You know, another 8-foot drop. And like, luckily, my computer not break, but my guitar did. But I throw my stuff over the fence, and then I have to drag myself again through the entire way again, back to the dumpster where my suitcase was, where now I have to drag my 80-pound suitcase through this whole terrain. And by this point, my suitcase is actually broken too. My handle, which, you know, would actually be the part where I could actually drag my, that lifts out of the suitcase, so that way I have some walking room for my legs or whatever. That did not work. So now I'm dragging my suitcase, still tripping over my suitcase because I have to drag it so close to my legs. So like I'm tripping over it. I'm dragging it through this terrain, and I eventually get to the point, like after walking maybe 20 feet, 30 feet, I was like, I have to carry this thing. Like I have to lift up this 80-pound suitcase, my big suitcase, which is awkward to carry. I have to carry this thing. And so I have to carry this thing another 100 feet through this terrain of rocks and tree roots and everything. And again, and now I'm using my body to like hold myself up against the fence. And I'm still tripping over rocks. I'm still tripping over tree roots. And like, I make myself eventually to the very end of the fence where, again, I have to throw myself over the fence. I lift up my suitcase, throw it to the fence. And now I have to climb this fence full of barbed wire. And so I climb the fence. I push the barbed wire down with my hands. I get my legs up. And then as I was about to drop, I was like, my legs are going to break. There's no way I'm going to jump this fence and not break my legs, if I'm lucky enough not to have my legs caught up on the barbed wire, if that doesn't scrape me and hold me to the fence even more so. There's no way I can jump this fence without having a 50-50 possibility of my legs breaking. There's just no way. And so I was able to get my legs up onto the fence and hold on to the fence, and I was able to, like, gladiator style, like, jump the fence, but yet still grab onto the other side of the fence, on the taller side of the fence, the chain link fence, and like just let myself down slowly enough to where I could drop myself safely. So now I'm in this field. Okay, by this point the security guards could not see me, and because there's a little building from the pool that's blocking their view from seeing me. So I know I'm at least a little bit safe now. The cops are still coming, but I'm still a little safe. So now I have to drag my equipment. I take a few breaths to get my breath back, and I'm sweating profusely at this point. And so I grab my suitcase, I grab my guitar again, grab my backpack with my computer, and walk another 200 feet through this grassy area, which I don't know what this grassy area is meant for. Maybe it used to be a parking lot, I don't know. But it was somewhat flat. So I eventually get to the next fence, which I walked to the corner of the fence, where now the fence is parallel. It goes along with the road, the fence with the poles and the spikes. But then there's like this cement wall which goes, horizontal with the street. And so I was like, okay, I can maybe leverage that wall. I'm trying to think of like how I can make this jump and how I can throw myself over the fence, because this next fence was actually taller than the first fence I jumped. And so I walk, I drag myself like another 200 feet through this field, and I get to the point to where I'm at the corner of the fence, and I I throw my guitar over the fence, which is the easiest thing to do because that was only like maybe 10 pounds. And then I throw my computer over the fence, throw my computer with my backpack over the fence. It got not that big. It got caught on the fence. Whatever, it's not a big deal. But I threw my computer over the fence. It got snagged on the fence, so I had to throw that over the fence too again, and that again falls on the ground. And then the biggest problem was again my suitcase. My suitcase is 80 pounds, and I'm so exhausted. I'm so tired. I take a few breaths to get my breath back, and then I try 5 or 6 times to grab my suitcase, lift it up. It was so hard just to lift up at this point, even at chest level. Like I'm picking it up, and like I'm holding on to it. And it's like I'm trying to just lift it up. Like holy cow! Like even when I would go to the gym, like lifting 100 pounds over my head, like doing a military press was challenging. But now I'm lifting up 80 pounds, exhausted and sweaty, and just banged up and bruised. And so I'm trying to get my suitcase over the fence. I'm like this. I'm leaning against the fence with my suitcase. I'm trying to finagle it, trying to push it over the fence. I'm trying to even extend my hands and my arms over my head to even have a chance of pushing my suitcase over the fence. And so after 5 or 6 times, like the suitcase falls. Like I fall and fall. And so then I take another minute. I take another 30 seconds, 45 seconds to breathe, get my breath back. I was like, Joe, you have to do this. You have to. You cannot fail. You have to make this happen. There's just no way. Like the cops are coming. Like you cannot go to jail. Like you have to make this happen no matter what. I don't care. Like just make it happen some way do it. So I catch my breath again, and I give it another attempt to push my suitcase over the fence. After another 3 or 4 tries, I eventually get the suitcase extended to where I have my arms like this. And my suitcase is like, I don't know what, it's a big suitcase, probably like 3 feet by 2.5 feet. I don't know, whatever. It's a big suitcase. It's not small at all. And so I have my arms extended. I have my suitcase up. I'm holding my suitcase. And like the suitcase is like barely, like maybe 3 inches touching the top of the fence. And then I'm still wobbling. I'm still trying to balance the suitcase because at this point, this is the best chance I've had so far getting my suitcase over the fence. So I have my arms extended. I have the suitcase leaning against the fence. And then like I had to like just basically like bend down and do a squat push basically, or a squat jump, and like do the best I could with my bruised knees, like scraped up and everything. And then after pushing, jumping, leaping, trying to get it up there, the suitcase gets more and more up onto the fence to where I eventually push it over. And that was that was the hardest part. But like getting myself over the next fence was another challenge. I was like, now I have to get myself over the fence. And so then get my breath again. I grab onto the fence. I start pulling myself over the fence. And then I start using the cement wall to use myself to get over the fence. And then as I'm climbing over, I throw my legs over the fence. My leg hit some rusty bar that was sticking out of the cement wall. This is so crazy. So, okay, this is the next thing. This it just keeps going. Like this story does not end. So like the next thing is like, okay, so I hit my leg on this rusty bar that was sticking out of this wall, which I eventually used to brace myself. So I hit myself with my leg, but then I used it to grab myself once I realized what it was. So now I'm holding onto this bar, this rusty bar. And then my legs are still on the other side of the fence, which I start, getting myself over the fence. And then I got one leg over, and then I got one leg on top of the fence. And I started to let myself down. But then I realized my leg was caught on this fence. So there wasn't barbed wire on this fence, but like it was caught onto the spikes. So I almost let myself down completely without knowing that, but luckily I did. So I had to pull myself back up onto the fence, get my leg over to make sure that was clear, and then I let myself down. As I let myself down, a car was driving past and it saw me. And this is, again, 11 11:30 at night, somewhere around there. This car, I mean, it wasn't a cop. Luckily, I was like, holy shit, this might be a cop. So this car sees me, and it drives past me. And I was like, okay, I'm in the clear. But no, it wasn't, because this car actually did a U-turn and turned around. And then it started following me. And I'm walking down this street. I'm walking down this godforsaken street in this beat-up part of town in Puerto Rico. And this car is following me. I pick up my suitcase, I pick up my guitar, and I pick up my book bag, and I just start walking down the street like nothing happened. Like, this is normal. Like, none of their business. This is normal. There's nothing for them to worry about. This car keeps following me. They keep following me as I walk down the street. And so I drag my suitcase and all my stuff again down this street for a good another football field. Another 300 feet, 400 feet, whatever it might be. It's probably longer than that. But I eventually get to the point to where it's like I can walk myself into like this parking lot where there's some businesses were. And I ended up staying, I sat there for a minute. I get into this parking lot, and this car's still following me. And then at this point, my ride actually shows up. And she shows up to the gate to the community. And I was like, I'm not at my community anymore. I was like, I'm in the parking lot next door. Like, and I told her, it's like, leave the community, take a right. I'm in a parking lot where there's a financial building and whatever else. Like, I told her, like, where I was. And so she eventually comes and gets me. The car is still following me. The car is still there. The car is in the parking lot with me, like, just watching me. So this car comes, like, my ride comes and gets me. I load my stuff up into the car. And so that way, the person that's following me, at least they know, like, whatever. Like, whatever their intentions were of following me, I don't know. But, like, at least it looks like I have a ride and something is okay. Or whatever, I don't know. You know, just to let them, you know, I'm not robbing anybody or anything else. Like, there's nothing for them to worry about. Like, whatever. So I get into my ride. And then the lady I'm with, Suvaline, she speaks a little bit of English, but she's like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, what is happening? This is so crazy, blah, blah, blah. And, like, even she didn't understand, but I'm so glad that she came and got me. Because, like, had she not come and got me, I would have been so screwed. Like, so screwed. Like, out of my mind screwed. Like I would have gone to jail and all that kind of stuff. Because, like, as we were leaving the parking lot, like, the cops are coming. Like, there's cops with their lights on, driving through the road that would take them to the townhouse. I was like, Sue, those are the cops. We have to go. Like, I'll tell you on the way. And, you know, the whole time she was like, I told you this lady was crazy. I told you she's crazy. And it turned out, like, the lady who I'm with, Sue, actually knew the person I was with because they worked together at one point. But she's like, that person was crazy. She's crazy. No one likes her. She's so crazy. And so, but anyways, we leave the parking lot. The cops are driving past us. We drive past the cops, and we start heading towards San Juan, to where I could at least get a hotel and just be somewhere safe and just be far away from where I just once was. And so I eventually get dropped off at a Comfort Inn, which is in San Juan, and it's like more in town, I guess. Because, like, again, I was in a really bad part of town. Like, the part of town I was in, nobody from Puerto Rico should ever live in this part of town. Like, I don't care. So, like, if you're an American or you're from Greece or whatever, if you're from Europe or whatever, like, whatever part of, like, this part of town that I was staying in should not be available on Airbnb or Airbnb. Like, this part of town is run down. It's like, you know, horrible part of town. Like, anyone on vacation should not be here. This is not a vacation area. This is not, I mean, like, I live in Jacksonville, Florida. Like, right now I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. Like, there are parts of town that I would not go to, and that I would compare, this place is worse than that. Like, nobody on vacation should ever be in this person's house, ever. No one on vacation should ever be in this part of town, Carolina. Stay away from that part of town. So I get to San Juan into like the tourist area, basically the tourist area where there's a Hard Rock Cafe, there's like a Starbucks, there's like, like there's actually clean restaurants, there's clean streets, like stay in the tourist area. Do not leave your tourist area no matter where you go. So, but why this place is available on Airbnb is so bad on Airbnb's part. Like nobody should ever live in this part of town, like ever. Like it's unacceptable. Unless you're from San Juan, unless you're from Puerto Rico, unless you know where you're going, like this place, like dude, I was like a war refugee, like just being there. It's horrible. So, but anyways, I finally get back to the Comfort Inn. I clean myself up. I left a text message to someone back home, just let him know. I was like, hey, just letting you know, this is like at 2 o'clock in the morning. I finally get to this place at 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, yeah. And I took a shower and I got cleaned up, took some pictures of like all my scrapes and bruises in case I ever needed it. And I left a text message to like one of my friends back home. I was like, dude, I gotta let you know what's going on. I'm not telling my family. I do not want them to worry. I need you to know this in case something happens to me, because I have no idea if the cops are gonna come and arrest me, like come bang on my door at 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, cause like obviously I have to check in with my name, Airbnb has my name, my hostess has my name. Like to have cops come bang on my hotel room, like you never know. Like I have no idea if that's gonna happen. So I do not even fall asleep until 8 o'clock in the morning. Like I'm seriously like that paranoid that could happen. So I rented the hotel night for 2 nights because I show up at 1 o'clock in the morning and I do not want to check out at noon. So I needed the whole day to just get myself together. So I checked it out for 2 nights. And so, so the next day, like I stayed at the Comfort Inn and I got to sleep in for a little bit. I had some lunch, at least had one day. I had one day in Puerto Rico just like to where I actually could just like settle down. Like what I just went through was so horrendous. Like this is my first Airbnb experience ever. Like ever. I will never do it again. Like I will always go to a hotel. Like I will never stay with somebody I don't know. I will never stay in someone else's house. I will never do this again. This is so ridiculous. Like what I had to go through was the most insane thing I've ever gone through in my life. I'm 39 years old. Like there's no reason why I should be running from the cops. Like absolutely not. Absolutely freaking not. Like this is the most ridiculous thing. Like Airbnb, how you're still in business, how you allow people to live in these, like, yeah, I'm gonna let these people live in this crackhead area. Yeah, this is a good idea. I'm gonna rent out this room. This place has a room available. Like how Airbnb gets away with this is crazy. Like they're screening on what, like, I don't know what their process is on what it takes to sign up for Airbnb, but it's not good enough. Like nobody should be in this part of town. This place that I was stayed at should not be available. It should not be on Airbnb's option list. Like, I understand like what Airbnb is trying to do, but like where I stayed and who I stayed with was insane. Like is way not unacceptable. Is like not acceptable at all. Like completely not. So I will never use Airbnb again. Like I will not recommend anyone to ever use Airbnb again. Like, it seems like a cheap way to go. Renting a room for $600, like, okay, that seems reasonable. Like, you're helping someone else out with their rent probably or whatever else, and you get to see the sights, experience the scene and everything. Not this place. No. Like, no. Like, whatever Airbnb screening process is for their customers and their clients is not good enough. And on top of that, when I went to go do my review for Airbnb for this place, it said like my review will not be accepted until the hostess sees it. Oh, great. Okay, cool. So it will never be posted for anyone else to ever see and warn them, which is why I'm making this video, because Airbnb will never post my 1-star review. My hostess will not post my 1-star review. When I checked out the reviews for the place I stayed at right now, like just recently, this place I just ran from, the cops from, had all great reviews. Great reviews. Naughty was so nice. Like, this place was so clean. Whatever. Not one bad review. I wonder why. Because it has to get accepted first. It does not get posted publicly. Like, public reviews are not acceptable. Like, the hostess has to approve my review. Are you kidding me? That will never happen. Like, no one will ever know how bad this place is. So, anyhow, I stayed at the Comfort Inn for 2 nights, and then the next day, I flew back home. So that was my trip, my month of vacation that I had planned in Puerto Rico. Ended early. I left, and I arrived last Saturday, and then I got back home to my parents' house last Friday, where I'm now going to stay for a little while, so until I can figure something else out. So that's my review for Airbnb, my horrible experience with Airbnb, which, you know, again, I'm making this video. Never use Airbnb. If you're watching this video and if you're looking to go on vacation, spend that extra $100, like, you know, or whatever it might be, to just get a hotel. Get a hotel. Never stay with someone else you don't know. Like, it's ridiculous. You know, I've had lots of roommates. You know, I've been to Europe myself. I've traveled, you know, I even went to Russia once, I can handle myself when it comes to traveling. And never did I think like anything bad could happen to you. But like, seriously, like, I'm one of those people, nothing bad will ever happen to you. Well, you can guess again, because I'm that person. So if you're one of those people too, I'm telling you right now. And when I talked to Airbnb, they said that this is a rare occasion, which means this does happen. Something, if they said this does never happen before, I would believe it. Okay, maybe, sure. But for them to say, like, this is a rare occasion, what's rare? 1%? 2%? 3%? 3 out of 100 people are getting chased by the cops? You know? So, a rare occasion. This is a rare bad occasion with Airbnb. But, like I said, like, if you're watching this video, this is my testimonial. Do not use Airbnb. Like, get a hotel. Like, seriously, quality over quantity is better. I would much rather stayed for 4 nice days, like 3 days in Puerto Rico on a nice beach, rather than spent $600 on a hotel room for, 6 days, instead of spending $600 for a full month somewhere else. Pay for quality. Do not use Airbnb. Do not stay with someone you do not know. You have no idea what you're getting into. Like, Airbnb, this is horrible. This is horrible. And this is a huge business. People are doing this every day. So, like, a rare occasion, 1%. Let's say it's 1%. How many people 100 people a day are using Airbnb? Like, that's a really low number. I'm sure it's thousands. This happens 10 times a day. I don't know. Don't let it be you. So I'm going to let this go. Do not use Airbnb ever again. Always use hotels. Pay for quality. You never know what you're going to get.